Welcome back. As you know, I am Eli, the computer guy, here for the Daily Blob, where I shake my brain and nipples every day in order to get some of that dirty YouTube money so I can afford to provide you folks hands-on, in-person technology education in Durham, North Carolina. Silicon Dojo, silicondojo.com. We're doing a class on AI and web scraping next week. We have more classes coming up. If you're interested, take a look at the schedule at silicondojo.com. Do remember, free teaser is not free. That's why I shake my brain nips every day. If you want to throw a couple of dollars in to help support the project, there is a donor box link down below. And with that, let's get into the excitement. So Elon Musk is talking about really cool crap. Now that Elon Musk's $1 trillion pay package has been approved, he is now talking about the future again. I do find this to be interesting. One of the weird things about Elon Musk is Elon Musk does a lot of very impressive things. The problem is he's always talking about things like 10 years in the future, and so by the time things actually come around, it almost seems kind of old and quaint. Like he feels like he always has to talk about the thing that he will do as if it's going to be done tomorrow, and then that boosts the stock price and all that kind of thing, and it gets to be a very weird world. So anyways, he's talking about his latest. He's talking about the latest excitement, and that is building a Tera Fab, which, to be clear, could be cool. If this in fact actually happens, this could be very impressive. Will it actually happen? Who knows? Who knows? But it sounds good, and that's the only thing that matters for Tesla stocks at this point in time, right? Tesla considers building, quote, Tera Fab to meet future chip needs. So I do think this is interesting, again, especially coming from Elon Musk, because, I mean, Elon Musk does a lot of impressive stuff. One way or the other, right? And so basically what he's talking about now is basically building a fab for wafers, for silicon chips, for processors, in order to match the demand that he expects essentially for all of the Tesla robots, right? Because Tesla is not a car company, it's not an electric company, a power company anymore. It's not even like an AI company. I guess it's like a robot company now. I get so confused on what Tesla is. Like, whenever I talk about Tesla, the Elon stands out there like, oh, look at you. You think it's a car company. It's like, yeah, well, 90% of its revenue comes from cars. I mean, it'd be like if I was talking about McDonald's and I was talking about being a hamburger company. You're like, oh, you think McDonald's is a hamburger company. It's like, well, 90% of its revenue comes from hamburgers. But anyways, right? You can't use that logic in the Elon Musk world. So anyways, and now I guess the push is for robots, right? The idea is that these new Optimus robots that they're going to be creating, that this is a $20 trillion idea. Again, these valuations are just getting stupid. 20 trillion. Like, how the fuck do you say $20 trillion with a straight face? I guess you do it right after you say Nvidia is worth $5 trillion. But anyways, the idea is that these Tesla Optimus robots are fundamentally going to change the world. Will they? Who knows? Who knows? But Elon Musk is always selling the future. And the concept is if they're going to sell as many of these robots as he says that they're going to sell, they need a hell of a lot of silicon. They need a hell of a lot of chips. And the problem that we've seen, I've been talking about this lately, is for TSMC and other vendors, other fabs, they're actually now maxing out production. They're not at 90% utilization or 95% utilization. A lot of these companies now are actually at 100% utilization, right? We talked about this with hard drives before. Enterprise class hard drives, it's now a 2-year wait on new orders. We talked about this with RAM. RAM prices are now up 200%. They're going full bore. TSMC, they're massively raising their prices simply because they can't keep up with all the demand, right? And so the issue, one of the interesting things that comes about is what happens if you have this paradigm changing product, right? A history changing product that you want to be able to sell to the market, but you simply cannot get enough of the components to actually build that world changing product. And so what he's talking about here is actually building a fab specifically and only for Tesla. An upbeat Silicon Silicon, Musk, with his newly approved $1 trillion pay package, talked to a very select group of investors at the Tesla annual shareholders meeting yesterday in Austin, Texas, and told the audience he had chips on his brain and planned to build a Tera Fab that could potentially produce 1 million wafer starts per month to meet chip demands for Tesla alone. 1 million wafer starts per month. So a wafer is that whole thing. There's actually multiple chips on the wafer. So I'm not exactly sure how many chips he thinks he's going to be producing. That's a lot. That's a lot. I think that's my problem with the technology world right now. It's just the numbers are so fucking stupid. You know, it's a stupid byte. You know, we had the megabyte, then we had the gigabyte, and then we had the terabyte, you have the petabyte. Now we're just getting into the stupid bytes. Like they feel like they always have to give a bigger number than they gave before, right? The new number they talk about always has to seem impressive compared to the old number that seemed to be impressive. The problem is, about 5 years ago, they just started getting out in front of their skis, right? They just started basically, you know, polishing the turd a little bit too much. And so you polish this turd, but it means the next turd has to be even shinier. And the next turd has to be even shinier than that. And the next turd has to be fucking made out of diamond, right? And so this is the interesting thing. And so think about selling this. Produce 1 million wafer starts per month to meet chip demand for Tesla alone. So the wafer is that whole circular thing that normally contains multiple chips. If you think the wafer is just one chip, so there's this interesting new architecture style where literally a wafer is one chip. It's kind of curious. Anyways, so even if a wafer is one chip, that means 1 million chips per month just for Tesla. Just for Tesla. So that would be 12 million products of some sort, minimum, right, being shipped, being built and sold per year, which is a huge number. Again, if it's a wafer, you've most likely got multiple chips on there, so it would be a multiple of 12 million. So 12 million is the minimum number of products he expects to sell going up there. And again, the products we're talking about here are cars, are robots, are that type of thing. It's not like it's 12 million, you know, smartphones. It's like, oh, Elon, you can sell 12 million smartphones. Probably, if you did smartphones, you could. But we're not talking about smartphones. We're talking about robots and cars and that type of thing. Musk said that all he could think about was chips at the moment. Yeah, probably. He also said that his AI5 chip and the planned AI6 chip, he did not think existing suppliers, TSMC and Samsung, could meet demand, which I do think is going to be a real problem. As a result, he would consider some collaboration with Intel and also building Tesla's own Tera Fab to meet demand for Tesla's own products. Quote, the thing is that we actually have agreed to buy all the chips that are made from the fab, so it's basically a money printing machine for TSMC and Samsung. It's like literally the faster you make chips, the faster we send them money, but it's still not going just fast enough, Musk said during the shareholder meeting. And so this is going to be an interesting thing for the bottleneck for chip production, right? With artificial intelligence, with a lot of things that are coming down the pike, there are so many chips that are required. TSMC, Samsung, they are already going at 100%. So it will be curious to see what happens with the technology sector over the next couple of years. Basically, as new spitball projects or moonshot projects might literally not be able to be created, right? So think about this. Let's say you have an amazing idea for a piece of hardware. You need your own unique chip design or whatever else. You go out, you get it designed. You go out, you get funding for it. This could be world changing, right? You could be the new Google. You could be the Google of the 2020s or the Facebook of the 2020s. But you go out there to actually get the hardware produced, and what you find is there's literally no slots available to produce the silicon that you require. That could put a massive skew on the development of technology over the next 5 or 10 years. Quote, so that's why I think, as far as I can see, the only option is to go build some like very big chip fab. And then you go to solve memory and packaging too. So he's talking about memory and packaging. But otherwise, you just tap out at whatever the chip production rate is. And so I guess Tera would be, you'd want to say it's got to be at least 100,000 wafer starts per month size fab. And maybe that would be 1 of 10 in a complex. So one fab would be 100,000 wafers per month, and then you'd have 10 fabs and a complex of fabs. So it would ultimately be 1 million wafer starts per month, he added. Musk expects huge demand coming from the Tesla AI5 chip for the company's AI software stack. Currently, this would be made in 4 places: TSMC Taiwan, Samsung Korea, TSMC Arizona, and TSMC Texas. Quote, I can't see any other way to get the volume of chip that we're looking for, so I think we're probably going to have to build a gigantic chip fab. Got to be done. Elon Musk believes the opportunity from the company's Optimus robots will be huge and said it's going to be the biggest product of all time by far, bigger than cell phones, bigger than anything. Because it's always got to be bigger than anything. I mean, do you think these robots are going to be bigger than cell phones? I don't know. Talking about the opportunity for Optimus, he said, quote, I think it's going to be the biggest product of all time by far. So like bigger than cell phones, bigger than anything. I guess the way to think about it is that every human on Earth is going to want to have their own personal R2-D2, C-3PO. So who wouldn't? Is everybody on the planet actually going to want their own robot? This does become an interesting thing, like with logistics and that type of deal. Would you actually want your own robot? If robots can move place to place, why wouldn't you just kind of essentially timeshare a robot? Don't I want a robot? I really don't. It's like with VR. With VR, like there's this idea like, wow, can you imagine what this will be like when VR is really good? And now let me be clear, VR is really good. VR is technically amazing. Practically, it sucks. Practically, it sucks. Nobody wants VR, right? That's the kind of thing with robots, right? Doesn't everybody want a robot? When you hear that initially, you might actually say yes. But then you got this robot. And like, I mean, do you really want a robot all the time? Do you really need a robot to go make you a cup of coffee? I mean, think about the world Elon Musk is talking about here. We talk about how bad the world has become because everybody's on screens and everybody has smartphones and that type of deal. What happens when you just tell the robot to go to the refrigerator? Right? They talk about that in America, right? In the United States right now, many people in the United States don't even get a mile of walking done in a day. If you put a pedometer on them and you just say just a normal life, that they don't even walk a mile now. It's one of the reasons why we have major health problems. What happens when the people that don't even walk a mile, when they're going to get their coffee and make their breakfast and make their dinner and all that kind of stuff? What happens when you give them a robot? So now the robot can go from their couch, grab them the Coke and the Doritos, and bring it back to their sofa. Again, that's where you start going into the whole like, is this what you really want? I don't know. Let's see here. Quote, in order to have a functional robot, you have to have great AI chips. Yep. And it needs to be an inexpensive chip, and it needs to be very power efficient, he said. So we believe the AI5 chip will probably be about a third of the power of, say, something like an NVIDIA Blackwell, which is a great chip for roughly comparable performance and much less than 10% of the cost. So this is a chip that is very much optimized for the Tesla AI software stack. It's not meant to be a general purpose chip. It's meant to be an amazing chip for the Tesla AI software. And this concept right here is one of the things I've been talking about with as the AI stack matures. Right now, everybody's going out there, they're buying NVIDIA, Blackwell, $40,000 a pop because they've got all the money in the world, right? Once the rocket fuel starts running out for the turkey and the turkey is getting closer to the ground, more and more companies are going to have to start figuring out how to be more cost effective with their purchases. And this is one of the things that I've argued for a while, is most companies need quote unquote AI to do very specific tasks. They don't need general purpose. They need it to do very specific tasks. They don't even really need training, right? Training is one component of the life cycle, and then most of the life cycle is just going to be inference. It's actually going to be using the models there, right? So the real technology that people need is something that's relatively inexpensive, that is relatively power efficient, that they can deploy at mass, at scale. And so it's interesting with Elon Musk coming out here, and he's actually making the argument I've been making for a while is, hey, we are going to produce a chip. It's only going to be a third the power of a Blackwell, but it's going to be 10% of the price. And that is what you actually need for one of these robot architectures. And so that's what they're talking about now. So yeah, now that Elon Musk has been promised a $1 trillion pay package, he has to go out there and he has to start blowing a lot of smoke up people's asses, right? right? Because in order for him to get the $1 trillion pay package, one of the things is the value of Tesla has to go to $8.5 trillion. Is there any sane world that would happen in? Absolutely not. Ergo, we got to go to an insane world. And in the insane world, apparently everybody is going to have one of their fucking robots. And the weird thing, again, with these robots is this is a crowded space. Like, it's weird to talk about. It's weird. Like, 2025 is a very weird year. Like, literally, we are in a period of time when humanoid robots literally are almost commoditized. Right? NVIDIA has their own models and those types of things, world models for humanoid robots. Chinese companies are producing a tremendous number of humanoid robots. Like when Elon Musk did the whole Tesla thing with electric vehicles, that was a wide open market. And still in the United States, it's a weirdly wide open market. As I've talked about before, I prefer my Ford vehicles, right? I have a Ford plug-in hybrid Escape. I drove the Mustang Mach-E. We ended up buying the Tesla just because of the charging infrastructure and that type of thing. But honestly, I prefer a Ford electric vehicle. I think the Ford electric vehicles, they are good to drive. They are comfortable to drive. They are designed more for average drivers, the whole 9 yards. I just like Fords. I own a Model Y. I really don't like the Model Y. But the funny part is we're now in 2025 and Ford is backing out of their electric vehicle market, right? They produce good electric vehicles. I like them. There's a whole bunch of arguments for them, but I don't know, for whatever reason, they're dropping the ball on electric vehicles again. And you see this from a lot of the American car companies. Even now, for some reason, it's not that they're not over investing in electric vehicles. They're not even properly investing in electric vehicles anymore. And so that leaves the market wide open for Tesla. Even now, Tesla has a pretty wide open market in the United States. The curious thing is when we start talking about these humanoid robots, right? Humanoid robots seem futuristic. They seem like this thing that's going to be around in 2050. But the reality is, if you keep up with what's going on in the news cycle for technology, lots of companies have humanoid robots, right? I think it's a Foxconn, or I think it's Foxconn, has a factory in Texas. And so they're going to have humanoid robots powered by NVIDIA chips building AI computers. Like that's actually happening right now. And so the curious thing with these Optimus robots is that they're actually going out into a very crowded space where, and also I don't think the value proposition has really been well argued, right? There's this idea, like the what ifs. Wouldn't this be worth $1 trillion? It's like, will it actually do it? But if it can, like, I don't know about that. So anyways, all this stuff is coming down the pike. So if he thinks he needs to build God knows how many of these robots, then he is going to need a fab for the silicon. And so, hey, maybe we will be, reshoring even more fab production to the United States. It would be funny. It would be kind of weird if in like 5 years we had too many fabs. That's basically what happens when the government gets involved. Like, I'm not anti the government for a lot of things, but that's how it happens. Where we don't have enough fabs. Like, oh, we don't have enough fabs for national security. We need more fabs. And so all of a sudden, more and more money gets dumped into fabs. And all of a sudden, we are floating in fabs. And that might actually be the equivalent of dark fiber. Like, I've been thinking about this. Like, what is the metaphor? What is the equivalent of dark fiber in 2025? And it actually might be fabs, which could be very interesting for the next iteration in the technology world. So with dark fiber, basically during the dot-com boom, all these companies were laying fiber optic lines, right? You need fiber optic for the internet. The thing is, we just didn't need that much fiber optic. Again, did we need fiber optic? Yes. That much? No. Anyways, so they laid way too much fiber optic line. Anyways, fiber optic line is relatively expensive. I don't know. It's like, somewhere between like $1,000 to $10,000 per mile to run fiber optic line. So you had all this stuff called dark fiber. And so what dark fiber was all these fiber lines that had been laid, massive networks of fiber lines that had never been lit up. There had never been a connection on either side to actually use the fiber. It was just in the ground, right? So when Facebook comes along, when YouTube comes along, when these social media platforms come along and they need a hell of a lot of bandwidth and they need it cheap, they're able to buy the dark fiber for pennies on the dollar, right? The companies have already gone bankrupt, or they just need to get them off the books, take a tax break on them or whatever else. And so these major social media companies are able to buy those fiber lanes for pennies on the dollar. And that's one of the things that led to the boom for YouTube and for Facebook and all that kind of thing. One of the things I've been thinking about with the AI revolution is this whole thing is like, what is the version of dark fiber? Is it going to be dark GPUs? Because the interesting thing with GPUs is one way or the other, they are going to become obsolete in a couple of years, right? You know, technology is just simply going to get better. And so if you have GPUs that sat on the shelf that never got used, basically dark GPUs, and then 4 years from now, or a couple of years from now, companies go bust and they start getting sold on the market, there's a question, is that really going to be that valuable? Again, with these data centers, right? Mark Zuckerberg, they're building an AI data center apparently the size of Manhattan, like Illinois. Okay, so everything falls apart and we get dark data centers. Again, is that really going to be valuable? Is that much data center space really going to be valuable in 2035? I got questions. Probably not. Great for homeless shelters, I suppose. Anyways, but I've been thinking about that. Like, what is the thing that comes out of this insanity that you'll be able to buy for pennies on the dollar 10 years from now that could launch the next revolution? What it could be is the fabs. Right, so think about this, right? Intel invests heavily into fabs. TSMC invests heavily into American fabs. You have Tesla invest in fabs. You have other companies, again, you have Google with their TPUs and those types of things. Other companies invest in fabs, right? So all of these fabs are being built out and being invested into, right? These are real hard assets that are being created. This is real CapEx expenses that are being put out there. And the thing is, when the AI bubble bursts, all of a sudden you're going to have all of these fabs. You're going to have all of these fully functional fabs that now no longer have the demand that they once did, and so the value of the overall fab is going to drop to be pennies on the dollar. So what happens in 2030 or 2035, when the next NVIDIA can come along, they can create their customized, whatever their version of Blackwell is at the time, and instead of it costing them $10,000 to manufacture a wafer, it costs them $500 to manufacture a wafer. What happens when the value of silicon drops through the floor? I think that will be the interesting thing to kind of take a look at here with how this will all flesh out at the end of the day. Dark fabs. Anyways, don't invest in dark fabs. The entire point here is that the value of the damn things are going to go through the floor. Invest in them like 10 years from now. Put some money to the side and say, okay, this money is to invest in fabs once the value of fabs are 10% of what they currently are. So what do you think about this? What do you think about Elon Musk and this whole idea of Tera Fab, a massive fab, 1 million wafer starts per month? What do you think about him and his Optimus robot and the rest of it? Put your thoughts down below. If you like these videos, give us a thumbs up. If you hate these videos, give us a thumbs down. Call me amazing. Call me a dumbass. Just be a real Lutnick and put that strong American comment down below. Do you remember what I actually care about at Silicon Dojo? SiliconDojo.com. Free to end user hands-on technology education that empowers you to do whatever the hell it is you want to do. We have a class coming up on AI and web scraping in Durham, North Carolina. Next week, we have more classes coming down the pike. If you're interested, take a look at the schedule at SiliconDojo.com. Please remember, free to end user is not actually free. That's why I shake the brain nips every day. If you'd like to throw some money into the donor box link, or there's a donor box link down below if you'd like to throw some money in for the project. And with that, see y'all later.